All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here reporting live from NASA, where I have discovered a time portal that will lead us into old America. So today, I wanted to talk about protesting and rioting. In the face of all the riots and protests that have occurred this year, I think it's important that we go into NASA's portal, into the scientific portal into the past. So here we are in the portal, and it is year 1776. So let me give you a little bit of the background. So what has happened so far is that the colonists in Britain and Great Britain are having much conflict. Now you see, Great Britain proclaimed the Proclamation of 1763, where they chose, not the colonists, Great Britain chose that the colonists could not live west of the Appalachian Mountains because there was much conflict between the Native Americans and the colonists. However, they picked for the colonists, so the colonists were not happy about that. That was just the start of all their problems. Then, Great Britain had a war with France, and so they had a lot of debt. So they started taxing all of the colonists, and the colonists were not down for that. And so first, it was taxes on tea and taxes on everything. And then things got worse, and they did the Quartering Act. And so basically, a soldier could just live in your house, and you had to feed him, you had to take him to the grocery store, and anything he needed, you just had to do it for him because you were a good citizen and subject to Great Britain. Well, the colonists were not okay with that. And so they started protesting and rioting. Now, what is a protest and what is a riot? Well, you see, a protest, by definition, is a statement or action expressing disapproval or objection to something. That's a protest. A riot, however, is a violent disturbance of the peace by a crowd. So, what do you guys think? Do you think the colonists protested, or do you think they rioted? Or do you think they did both? Or do you think it was justified? Now, one of the most recent things that has occurred here in America, in the not so America yet, was the Boston Massacre. And so in the Boston Massacre, the colonists were unarmed and 5 people died. However, they were disrupting the peace. So no one knows what happened, but 5 people died. And it was a massacre because the colonists were unarmed, while the soldiers were armed. So specific legislation that was being disputed was the Quartering Act, taxation without representation, Great Britain making decisions for the colonists. Those are the legislations that were being disputed. Now, one of the biggest things that has occurred was the Boston Tea Party, where the colonists basically threw $2 million worth of tea into the river. Now, I don't know if that was a protest or a riot, because a protest is a statement or action expressing disapproval or objection. I feel like we could kind of tell that they disapproved. However, a riot is a violent disturbance of the peace by a crowd. I feel like it was pretty unpeaceful and disruptive, and there was a big crowd. So it's very hard to tell sometimes if it was a protest or riot. So I think there were several things that the colonists did in recent days that were considered riots because there was disruption of peace, but there was also boycotting and there was also protests, which were peaceful and they were good. And they were just expressing that they disapproved of Great Britain. However, we all know what happens because we're in the present day of 2020, also going through protests and riots. But these colonists here don't know that they're about to win the war. All right, well, thank you for tuning in. I think it's very important that we learn from the past, especially in current days of protests and riots, and that we learn from the past and not repeat the same mistakes. Thank you for joining us today at NASA. Please thank all the scientists that are part of this video. Have a great night.